Okay, we're not going to worry about that too much. Okay, so we're just going to get into my function stack here because I'm most familiar with it, and I'll kind of touch on other types as well as this video series progresses. But for now, we're just doing basics, and we're going to talk about E because that's kind of one of my favorite things to do. Okay, so my function stack is extroverted intuition, introverted thinking, extroverted feeling, and introverted sensing. And so how this progress is, so my extroverted intuition is the explorer function. Just put that here, explorer. And so that is called that because it is, it presents in me as a incessant need to explore and to discover new things all the time. So I like to do new stuff. That's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I dig into Myers-Briggs so much. That's why I'm into permaculture, because it all offers just such a vast amount of learning potential. And I love to learn, but I don't respond well to institutionalized education because I operate on a completely different frequency than most people do. So yeah, I do a lot of my learning online, on my own, through interaction, through people, observations, interact and observe. It's a permaculture principle, but it's like my number one thing to do. So it's my explorer function. So like I said, explorer wants me to explore all the time. So that's my driver. So furthermore, it mimics extroverted sensing, which is, I can't remember what the code word for introverted or extroverted sensing is, but extroverted sensing is something that the sensing types have. So like an ESTP would lead with extroverted sensing. And so that is more about the physical world, what's going on around you at all times. So they react very well to what's going on all the time. I can be a little bit spacey, but I find that my extroverted intuition can mimic extroverted sensing, and so, but because it works on an intuitive way, so I just like act rather than think about it, I find that the less aware I am of my surroundings, the more intuitively, or the more I am able to intuitively react to what's going on. It kind of manifested in something called the soup incident for me, which is, it's a good story. Remind me, I'll tell you about it later. Just, comment or something, and I'll make a video about the soup incident. While I'm saying that, subscribe, like, just because you like me. I really don't care, but give me your comments. Love your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how I think about things, and give me something to debate about or something like that. Anyways, so subscribe if you like this video if you like it. Go visit my website, fifthsum.ca, and if I haven't introduced myself in this video, because I'm doing like 5 videos all at once here, I'm D.A. Myers. I do a whole bunch of stuff. So, mimics SE, soup incident. So then, I move into introverted thinking, which is dubbed the accuracy function. And it's called accuracy because it's how I make decisions, and it's all about basically how I internalize everything that I'm thinking, and I have to measure and weigh it against my own internal logic framework, which I build with the help of extroverted intuition by, all of this input shapes and changes my internal view all the time. That's why I like to be challenged, because I like to have my introverted thinking challenged, because if I don't ever have it challenged, I have nothing to base it on the outside world. So yell at me or like ask me questions. I love to be asked questions. So accuracy function, it's also super concerned with making everything right. I like to call it my bullshit meter, because it sees things inaccurate, and if the dots don't touch, if the dots are not connected in something that someone is saying or an action or something like that, I can see it quite easily, and I'm just like, fuck no, I will call you out on your bullshit. And it is also very useful in something called radical honesty. And this is a type, or this is a term that the personality hacker guys talk about a lot, and it's really, really important. Basically, it's... There we go. 3 things. Crap. Hey guys. Sorry about the background music, but I don't care because it makes me happy. This background music is a local Calgary band called the Northwest Passage. I recently did a review on them, and yeah, they're freaking amazing. So good. It's just like... I digress. So, the last video is going to have some weird cuts in it because I ran out of space on my SD card. So then I had to spend, you know, a good like 20 minutes or so copying everything over my computer. Shit, that was annoying. Anyway, so we were talking about the different function stacks, and the last one we were doing was the accuracy function, or introverted thinking, and we were just talking about what radical honesty is. And now radical honesty is very, very important for any introverted thinking user, because it basically is how we, you know, we call things out, and we need to be unafraid to do so, because sometimes what we say isn't what people want to hear, but we always try to strive to say things that people need to hear. And this comes from my next function stack, or my next function in the stack, which I will get onto. And this is something that is difficult for ENTPs to deal with, but I will talk about my experiences with it as I describe it a little bit. So my next function is extroverted feeling, which is dubbed as the harmony function. So extroverted feeling is concerned about, it's basically how I feel things. I feel things externally, and so that means I can, along with the help of introverted thinking, I can pick up on people's emotions and how they're feeling about things, but mine is more like I can pick up how they're thinking based on their emotional state, because I can pick up on their emotional state quite easily. So it helps me read people, which is good, and can also be bad at the same time, depending on how mature you are. ENTPs tend to take a while to mature. I don't know, I'm 30 and I'm like maybe halfway there. So there we go. Almost 30. So harmony, it's concerned about what's going on around me, the feelings around me, and it's called the harmony function because at its base level I want things to be equal and like a level playing field, and that's what drives my accuracy function, to say things that people need to hear, because so my extroverted intuition is future forward and thinking about lots of ideas. My introverted thinking, let's start that one over again. So my extroverted intuition is future forward and exploration, idea generation. My introverted thinking is my bullshit meter. It calls things out, and it notices inaccuracies in the world, to which I want to remedy by telling people or performing actions that help, you know, put things more in balance. And it's all kind of tempered by my extroverted feeling, because without extroverted feeling, and there are some ENTPs with very, very low extroverted feeling, that whole like being an asshole is really, really easy to do because you just don't care about what other people think, whereas you need to pay a little bit of attention to what people think or how people feel, because otherwise you're just an abrasive jerk, which nobody likes. ENTPs are generally that guy that you just hate to love, but you love anyways, because we got hearts of gold, man. We care so much about so many things. It's just on this like, you know, hard, crunchy shell of introverted thinking. Anyways, so that's my harmony function, and it's in my tertiary spot, or my 10-year-old spot, and that means that it is lower in my stack, and it tends to be a little bit hard for me to deal with, and can sometimes go into some bad times. So like I described a loop before. What happens in a loop, it's kind of when you bypass your 10-year-old or you bypass your co-pilot, and so then for me that's just exploration, feeling driven exploration, which turns me into just like really unstable. Tend to get really mad and very irrational, and I never like it when I'm in that state. It's a bad place to be for any type, yeah, ENTPs tend to go into a bit of a rage. It's just kind of what we do. It's just a feeling driven, just mess. Anyways, loops are bad. You want to avoid them. So then my last stack, or my last function, is introverted sensing, which is memory. So that function is concerned about all of the sensory inputs that I've always had or ever had gets inputted into my memory function. And because it is a subconscious function, I tend to have a really piss poor connection with my memory. There's literally times in my life I don't remember a single thing, but when I do have a memory, it's extremely vivid. And so in my maturing days, I've begun to understand how my extroverted feeling has a lot to do with connecting with my introverted sensing or my memories. So this is my theory, so you can call bullshit on it if you want, but this is how I've come to understand all of this stuff. So your 3-year-old, or your subconscious function, is sitting in the back and will occasionally throw a juice box at your head and kind of just completely mess you up. It's a thing that you need to defend against as you're developing, and develop strategies to coexist with that subconscious function, because that subconscious function likes to just push you over sometimes and just mess you up. And so in me, your inferior function, or your subconscious function, tends to be a place of stuff that you reject. So in my instance, memory is happy with tradition and things that in the past to remain that way and continue forwards. Very past driven. And so in my inferior function, it comes out as me rejecting tradition and rejecting rules. So growing up, before I was even aware of any of this stuff, I just constantly had this need to stir the pot. And growing up in my house, stirring the pot was kind of not well accepted. I grew up fairly religiously, and their whole general outlook on things is don't startle the herd, you know? So I developed a very high feeling function in this thing, and so I was very concerned with the harmony of things regardless of how I felt. And that led to something called cognitive dissonance, which is an incredibly painful and bad state to be in, because you just get in this funk that you can't get out of. You just feel like everything is wrong, everything you do is wrong, and it's a really uncomfortable place to be in. So if you're feeling cognitive dissonance, if your life just feels wrong for whatever reason, if there's a red flag, or you're trying to rationalize some poor behavior in yourself or in other people, maybe it's time for a change. I changed, and I've come a long way. It hasn't been very long since I picked up Myers-Briggs. It's only been about 18 months since the last chapter of my life kind of closed, and I've come leaps and bounds from that person. I'm producing this content, which is huge for me. I hope you guys appreciate this. So memory, yeah, I reject it. I hate rules. I hate traditions. I always want to forge my own path. Things like that. So your subconscious function, let's get back into that. So I find that things tend to work in order or in reverse, depending on how things go. So my memory, for me to access my memory, I need to attach an emotional or a feeling tag to it, basically. So all of the memories that I remember as a kid are ones that are high emotion memories. Usually the negative emotions, because they tend to stick with me pretty hard. Because I don't like things feeling like, you know, I've caused disharmony because of that feeling function. So, and to explain it using the car model, so the 10-year-old can talk to the 3-year-old, right? They have a pretty good relationship. They're sitting next to each other. The 3-year-old might be kind of hard to understand, but the 10-year-old's just like, hey, yeah, I totally get you. Let me, figure this out. So the 10-year-old passes the information forwards to the co-pilot, and the co-pilot then translates it and gives it to the pilot to make decisions as to what we're going to do with that information. So it's yeah, that's kind of just my theory. So the pilot and the 3-year-old are never generally talking to each other. So I literally have no conscious access to my memory. I have to go into my memory through my feeling function. And so from top down, I get an idea, and then I want to make a decision on it. And so then I work backwards. I internalize it, and I think about it, and I rationalize it. This can sometimes take a couple of days. And then I figure out how I feel about the decision at hand, and how it affects harmony, and how it affects the whole balance of everything. And then I draw up a memory or memories that coincide, and then I'm able to come up with solutions and stuff. But it's a process, you know. Especially if you feed me information, I have to take a little while to think about it. Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell. That's the function stack in a nutshell. I will dig into other types a little bit later, maybe, if anybody's interested in. If you are of a type, if you know your type, you can comment below and tell me what it is, give me some questions, and I can apply my weird ENTP rationale with your problem, temper it with permaculture, which we will discuss in another video, and offer you holistic solutions based on like just the absolute truth. And I'm very objectionable, so, or yeah, anyways, I'm objective, there we go. And so I like to just take all the information, weigh everything together, and then offer solutions, or offer. I need a new video recorder. Anyways, we'll get into that a little bit later. So give me your comments. I will rationalize them and react to them and give you stuff back. You can also talk to me via Twitter at Babelfish Radio, or on Facebook, also at Babelfish Radio, or online at my website fifthsum.ca/Babelfish Radio, or just fifthsum.ca if you want to check out kind of my other endeavors. And if you have any questions, email me, send me a comment on any one of my social media platforms. I do tend to pay attention to those. So, you know, but if it takes me a couple of days to get back to you, you know, it'll take a couple of days or weeks, or maybe I'll never reply. I don't know. Anyways, see you later, my lovelies.